I've been diddy bopped in a tunnel last night, so I'm a little bit hungover.
First of all, you know I love a Wawa.
Oh, yo, you got to Philly, baby.
I lived in Philly, and back then I haven't been to one in years, but you know, there was like a sandwich ATM where you would go and you just like program your hoagie, and then it would like pop out on the other end, and it was like my favorite thing to do after the bars closed.
No, I'm not even up on that.
Yeah, you would go this whole touchscreen thing before McDonald's had it, before any of this shit. The Wawas, man.
Yo, it's such a dope place.
Oh.
I dated a girl who was from Philly or lived in Philly, and she used the word John, and I loved it. I really like want to start using John a lot more.
What are you doing in LA?
Oh, my cousin just had a baby, and I needed to meet him.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. I'm at their house right now.
Where in LA?
We're in Glendale.
Oh, yeah.
So it's chill, it's suburban, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I am just in heaven. Like I could really get used to it out here.
I love LA, actually.
Me too. The weather is just so incredible.
The weather, although it's been a little crazy recently, but yeah, the weather's really nice. And I think there's like access to nature, like, you know, always like within driving distance, like half an hour.
The nature, like a really cool. I love cars, like really cool car, as you know.
Yeah.
Really
I have a really cool car from you.
Yeah, totally.
Did you ever get rid of that station wagon?
Yeah, of course. I've sold a bunch. I've flipped a lot of cars this year, actually.
So you just buy them used and sit on them until?
Yeah, I buy them and fix them on Facebook Marketplace.
You fix them yourself, or you?
No. I have like a little group of people, like a renegade painter, a renegade mechanic.
That's cool.
A Jaguar right now that I'm really excited about. I bought it for $500, and it's like I'm putting a little bit of jingle into it, but like it's just a great little hobby of mine. And sometimes I like to trade them, the cars for art, and sometimes I sell them for cash.
Well, if you ever find a pickup truck, I'll trade you an artwork for one because I need a pickup truck.
Oh, dude, I got you. Because you definitely
hold on, I gotta help French fry up on the bed.
Okay, you definitely want to have pickups from where I am in Texas, because like compared to where you are, there's no salt.
Yeah.
So we could definitely work something out.
Yeah, I've been looking, but not seriously, because I don't know what to look for, especially when they're used.
Yo, I'm your guy. Great.
You're my auto guy, the art guy, the podcast guy, the Wawa guy,
the John guy.
I mean, you look very LA, to be honest, with your hair slicked back and these, mirrored Ray-Bans and, a 5 o'clock shadow from last night.
Totally.
So wait, you had sex with Diddy? Is that what you said?
I got Diddy bopped. Yeah.
Because last podcast we left off that you're gay, so now we leave you in a tunnel with Diddy.
Exactly. It was just an initiation ceremony. It's not gay if it's for pay,
Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah. Exactly.
It was the Kutch. Oh, allegedly. Oh, I don't know that we can say that.
Allegedly, exactly.
Allegedly, he and Mila Kunis are not even living together.
Wow. That's unbelievable. I mean, hey, you got to take that stuff with a grain of salt. I don't know why they're coming for him so bad, but
I think because he was like at all these Diddy diddles,
We'll see when the trial comes out.
Yeah.
But as for now, I always liked Ashton for crying out loud.
I liked the Punk'd. I liked when he did Punk'd because I like anything with celebrities.
I loved Punk'd, and I loved that where I know the podcaster you mentioned, Dax, was from that show. That was his sidekick on that show.
Is that right?
Yeah. Dax Shepard was his sidekick on Punk'd.
Oh, I had no idea. I have to go. Yeah. I really do like Dax Shepard, primarily because of his sobriety journey. I just find it like very fascinating that he talks about
it. Are you on the wagon?
No, not at all. But I just like that kind of transparency, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And sometimes I'm like, oh, is it too much? I don't know, blah, blah, blah. But I think this is my sort of, more often than not, it's better to share these difficult things so that other people who are going through them, even if it's not me, you know, I think it's Lena Dunham's another one who shares all of her medical stuff, and it seems really intense. Now, I'm not going to have endometriosis and everything else, but I think it's the space to be in this day and age.
Yeah, you know, in a world where people are like not human, to share your humanity goes
Yeah.
a long way.
This I will start off officially this Artburn
Please.
episode 4. This is a mug from the MCA Chicago that vendors, when you do art fairs, you often get totes with gifts.
Oh, that's a vibe.
And
What
so
does
when I
MCA stand for?
Museum of Contemporary Art.
Ooh.
And so when we did Expo Chicago last time I did it, maybe it was 2 years ago, you get like a tote bag and a mug and maybe some chocolates or something. I don't know. It depends where you go.
I love that, like that tile fucking look. It never
Yeah.
gets old to me. It's like 80s, but like
It's like
modern.
subway tile,
Yeah,
right?
it's a
Yeah, yeah,
freaking
yeah.
vibration. A
And
high
then
vibration.
inside, I can't show you because I have tea. That's why it took me so long to get on here. It's like the water wasn't boiling today or something. But
LA iced coffee.
oh yeah.
Hello.
Wait, you have to go to what is it? Erdogan?
Oh, I'm going to Erewhon. I'm getting a fucking I'm getting a $50 smoothie. Don't you tell
Yeah,
me I'm not gonna.
get the Haley Bieber.
I will. I will.
That's what people get, I think, the
Okay.
Haley Bieber.
Okay. I
Yeah.
done
Yeah.
and dusted.
Report back.
I will send you photos. All right, so we got a freaking awesome episode today. I'm very excited. First of all, let me just also say this is like the highlight of my week to do these little podcasts with you. So
Oh
blessing.
yeah.
Thanks.
Hey,
It's so much fun.
it's like the best kind of job, not job that I hope to have that pays in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I told you I was in a movie recently. I played like a corpse. You know, it was a SAG movie. I can get my union card if I want. I literally laid on the ground for like many hours. It was raining. I was like, this is the gig that I want to do.
You know what's so funny is like now you can protest as a SAG, but like you're like you have to like lay there protesting
Yeah.
also.
I mean, I've already practiced in the role, you know?
All right. So ultimately, I want to kick things off by like I want to talk about the role of art in social movements and like I you know, we're just going to kind of kick the ball around and like talk about how you think like art has historically contributed to social movements. And you know, I just want to start with that and then kind of hone in on certain you know, elements of whatever comes up.
Um, well, I mean, we can start with right now, which is what I would know most about, I guess. Just because, you know, I'll say this 10 million times over. I'm not an art historian. I sort of know what I know.
Right.
Um, Not that anyone thought I was an art historian.
Well, we're going to become them
They're like,
as
"Where's
we
your
go on this
PhD?"
journey.
I
We
think.
need some art historians on the show.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. I think so. So what I see in the art world in terms of like shows through the galleries right now, um, is not particularly like political. I haven't seen like a show that's like talking about the election one way or the other. And
Mm,
again, I'm not seeing every show in every part of the world, of course.
right.
Um, uh, I've seen more individual artists talk about their positions on politics, right? On
Mm,
social issues.
mhm.
There are certainly Judith Bernstein she's an amazing, I love her. Um I don't even know, abstract painter, figurative painter. She's always made political art that I've seen about like the Vietnam War, about feminism. She's made these sort of famously screw paintings or screw drawings, you know, these big phallic like screws that are like, you know, 10 feet long by 4 feet tall. She did a whole series about Nixon, these obsessive like series about like Nixon and like, you know, he's a liar. So he has this like dick for a nose. And she's painting all over the canvas too, like words like Nixon's a cunt. And, but I would say like, and then she's done Trump painting. She's just done like cunt paintings again, sort of this like maybe is in the sort of tradition of the screw paintings. She
Mm.
did these cunt paintings that were like in day glow painting, and she's been doing this for decades. I only mention her age because I think it's fast. She's like in her probably 70s or 80s now and still doing that kind of work. Um, and probably her career has suffered for it, at least commercially. I think she's gotten attention because of the subject matter. I've
Hmm.
seen museums do like controversial shows, but no one is really, it's sort of like politics. I don't think anyone is dealing head on with like the war in Gaza, for instance. Like,
Hmm.
no museum is going to touch that, first of all, because
Oh,
no way. I
yeah.
have a friend who's a curator at MIT, and this was a show that was pre-planned before October 7th. A Palestinian artist was going to do a show at the MIT Museum. It wasn't particularly political. This artist was just Palestinian.
Hmm.
It was scheduled to happen after October 7th. Once October 7th happened, the powers that be at MIT put like a moratorium on that show. It did end up happening, but they waited a certain period of time thinking that it might be something.
So was this artist like just happened to be an artist who was Palestinian, or like that was part of the headline, or like,
I think no, it was an artist who was chosen before October. Of course, I'm sure, we all have our sort of points of view. So I'm sure the art reflected some of that. But as far as I know, it wasn't inherently political. It was just Palestinian. And, that's an institution. I mean, we hear this a lot from college campuses now, right? That I think deans or presidents are quitting their jobs. They don't know what to do with these protesters who are protesting. I think I would say that my argument would be is there's not enough political art right now. There's not
Mhm.
enough art making statements right now. They're in all kinds of, what's the last great protest song you can think of? Like,
Wow.
I mean, I can't think of one off the top of my head, and I listen to like a lot. Oh, I can think the new Bright Eyes record, actually. He rails against Elon Musk. So maybe that's a protest. Like,
Yeah, maybe.
so I listen to like a lot of music though, and I don't hear like, you can think of, I can think of art in the 60s that was more directly political and
But do you
addressing.
think that the art world, like, it seems to me as an art outsider that there's only one ideology in the art world, and like, if you think differently in any capacity, you will be chided and cannot participate in art.
What do you mean? Be specific.
It feels as if, like, just from what I've seen, uh, as like art people, if your political ideologies do not lean left, uh, you are bullied and an outcast and cannot participate. So it feels as if there's only one ideology in the art world. So like, what are your thoughts on that, or am I wrong with that? And or why do you think that is?
Um, Great questions, Topper J. Um, there's many questions. So that has not been my direct lived experience of uh while I hear more, the art world is quote unquote progressive because there's more people of color in it and lots of queer people everywhere. And so it's a microcosm in that way, right? And I think that maybe doesn't translate to most of America or
Mm.
most of the world, maybe. Even it's sort of a
Elitist, the most elitist.
well, so there's a bunch of factions though of the art world. Like there's the artists who by and
I'm
large
talking
aren't.
specifically of the artists right now.
So, okay. So, yeah, I would say specifically of the artists, not of the art world, there is probably a far left leaning, to sort of make a large sweeping
Yeah, that's what we do. We
generalization.
sweep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, do I think? Yes. And I think, so I'll say this across the board. I also think nuance is a dead art anymore. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of black and white thinking, um, period. Right.
Mhm.
So, um, people hear someone's on the right or a Trump supporter or a Zionist, and
They're
I think, yeah, I think a lot of people say bad. On the flip side, people I've heard, like, if you're pro-Palestinian, you're anti-Zionist, you're a snowflake, you're bad, right? So it's the two sides of the same coin. It's all a little elementary to me, quite frankly. Like, um, I'm listen, I had thoughts about you being a Trump supporter entering into this, right? I thought, like, oh, I talked to a friend about it. She said, yeah, what if it fucks your reputation? I said, why would it do that? Like, like, it doesn't make any good sense to me. I think that for me, um, I'm getting into bed with you metaphorically, right? Like,
okay.
someone I don't even know what it means. Like, I don't even care about your politics necessarily. I think if you did something that personally offended me, whether it was through your politics or just through your person, I would not want to be associated with you in our art. This is our art right
Yes,
now, right?
totally.
So, I think if I saw that you wrote a big check to some anti like gay thing, I might drop out of this,
That
right?
would be wild.
You know, I primarily, like, I don't even know anything about your politics. If it's of interest to me, I'll ask. I think that that's not. I like that. I would say that art can and should be political. Absolutely. I have this whole show called "Sculpture from an Impending Post-Apocalypse" that is political, inherently political. It's my own revisionist history of a world that I would like to see. Um,
Mm.
no one wants to show it, right? Like, it's completely unsaleable. But I think there's ways to at least open up discussions. I mean, it'd be fascinating to have a show about the war in Gaza that's 50-50, right? You
Mm.
find 50 Zionists, and you find 50, or 10 Zionist artists, and you find 10 uh, pro-Palestinian artists, right? And you put those artworks in dialogue,
Oh,
and everyone can sit down and discuss. There's lots to discuss, I think. So I would say that there is a complete lacking of political or social art at the moment that I'm aware of. And it's also been like there's been so much living history happening in the past 5-10 years. Like, COVID, like, millions of people have died, whatever we think about that. Like, in AIDS, a lot of people are making art about the AIDS crisis all the time. I think it's interesting. COVID just sort of, Joe Biden became president. He's like, back to business. And it's like, wait, the world shut down for 2 years. Like, no artist, I haven't seen anyone really respond to what that kind of isolation does. And so that's also what I talk about as being a mirror. Just, there's a lot of fascinating contemporary issues that are and I'm not saying that's the responsibility of the artist. I would just like to see some more of it. I Yeah.
yeah. Well, I just also want to hone in on, do you think that um, that single ideology is a function of social pressure in the art world? Like, uh, yeah,
Well,
kind
I
of give
told you Jerry Gagosian on her Instagram made a post that said something like, any art world Trump supporter, say, tag in the comments or something. And I haven't
Mm,
followed up on that, but um, I could understand why a Trump supporter or whatever president would be next, a JD Vance supporter or
mhm,
a George W. Bush supporter, when that was,
mhm.
everybody hated George W. Bush. And for me, there's like, listen, well, I think that
I also
everyone.
just need to say that the left used to be the party of anti-war, and I, being a pacifist, is part of how my ideology shifted towards Trump, because he's very anti sending American troops to war, and
That is
that,
true.
um, uh, I thought was like a left thing back in the day, but now I guess not. And so now,
Well, I mean, I guess Trump, see, I mean, this is the other sort of thing that language plays into. Like, we can say he's anti war, but he's also very like America first,
mm,
right? So it's, again, it's like language. What does that mean? This is what it means to be a good artist, though, to make work that deals with all of these things in a single canvas, in a single sculpture, in a
oh,
performance. Like, and that's, I think there's so much, and you're going to love this. There's so much identity politics in art right now. Um, and I mean that, like, we've talked a lot about, well, I don't know, have we talked enough about like figuration,
never enough.
right? Just like constant figuration. That's because a lot of people are just painting themselves constantly, whether it's in a fantasy or whatever. And it's an easy subject matter. I've done it just to practice. You get in front of a mirror, you stand naked, you can sketch yourself, all these things. It's great practice. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be on every canvas all the time. Like, because then we're like lacking. It's like good to be self-reflective, but that can be incorporated into like larger kind of issues, I think. Like, we have a show up at Half Gallery right now, this artist Andy Dinkin that I've mentioned, and they're
Yeah.
sort of larger canvases, or even if they're small, there's lots of figures. They're almost like, they're very like illustrative. But there's like lots to see in them, and it's not a singular focus. And sometimes they're like sexy, or they might be like a little political, just kind of like all the objects she plays with, the table settings and all the meaning behind that stuff. And I think,
Andy is a woman?
yeah, Andy,
Oh,
Andie, Dinkin.
ooh.
Um, I guess also like she's someone I've had the benefit of getting to talk to about her work. And
What are some of her inspirations and her kind of, we know what her ideologies are, but because
well,
she's an artist, but what,
I don't know what her ideologies are. But I know she loves this artist, Florian Stettheimer,
okay.
um, who lived in New York in the, I don't know what, maybe 20s, 30s, 40s. Um, had lived on the Upper West Side. I've been to her house because I have a friend who lives in one of the house has been cut up into apartments, and she just would host other artists. She would have all these salons. She would have parties. She would put shows up in her apartment and bring other artists around. And I think that's probably, I mean, there's probably always been commercial galleries, but I think, that's what I want always as an artist, is that kind of, and I think through that, to your point, you develop your tribe in that way, and yeah, your politics are probably going to be shared. Listen, there's definitely artists on the right. John Curran is famously like very Republican, and he's like a huge artist. His wife, also an artist who like is very successful, is very Republican. I think these are people with lots of money.
Right. No, but also
Like, artists are poor generally, like in New York City especially, and
yeah.
like, I think there were moments when I was like bitter about not, because I do believe, like, I made 3 shows in New York City. I spent way more money than I ever made for it. I was putting something culturally out into the world. Like,
Mm.
there is a little bit of like, well, it wasn't bitterness for me, but it was desire for some kind of success.
Mm.
So even that, when you don't get a piece of the pie, that can push you one political direction or another, right? And I think
Mm.
most artists would, but also maybe you're drawn to be an artist because you are sort of left, or,
Right. That's what I want to explore, because also it feels more rebellious today to be on the right. And um I thought that artists were supposed to be rebellious.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I think, artists are like workers. If they're dedicated to it, they're like in their studio. I mean, again, there are artists who are political, but I think we're talking about like Hollywood more than like visual artists. Like, visual artists don't even have a platform by and large, even if they do have a gallery show. As I just said, I haven't seen or heard about anyone making an inherently political show. I think
Mm.
the kind of artists we're mostly talking about are like Meryl Streep and Oprah,
No,
who,
I'm talking about painters, but also okay, if someone was to do something political, how could they make it have a difference or not be, just kind of generic, or, how do you make it stand out today through the noise, whatever your kind of
Well, I would think if you were an artist who made a political show, that might be the one thing that would stand out right now. It's
uh,
right before the election or this war is
mhm,
going on. I think I would say there's so many shows all the time. I think, and also, I think there's a real lack of criticism. What I think ends up happening is most reviews are just what the critic enjoys.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
so I think that's an issue. I have another show called Ain't Wet, which we've talked about all these paintings about the whole sort of thesis of that is like, there's so much mediocre art in the world for many reasons, including market reasons. But a lot of it is because there's no growth possibility when you're outside of academia if there isn't real criticism to sort of reflect on the state of contemporary art. And I would make a very strong argument that there is almost no criticism available outside of academia.
Calling all Yale art students. Hungry for more inspiration? Head to Taste of China at 964 Chapel Street, where Sichuan spice meets a sophisticated vibe just a short walk from campus. Nothing says next level art appreciation like indulging in a bold flavors that you'll make your creative senses pop. Fuel your late night critiques with dishes like legendary Kung Pao chicken and sizzling Dan Dan noodles, crafted to keep that creative flow going. So bring your Artburn podcast hot takes and join us at Taste of China, where flavors are as bold as your artistic vision.
so what would like
For gen-
what would be hypothetically like an ideal scenario of uh that criticism? What would that look like to you?
Well, I think as an artist, I want feedback on my work so I can grow from it, right?
Mhm.
I might not necessarily agree with everything, but
Yeah,
I think
you
I
wanna
was
see your
saying,
blind spots. I'm gonna throw these shades back on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's right, right? Someone can point out, even if I disagree with it, it's food for thought. It's like, I don't think criticism has to be. I love criticism that's like a takedown of like a Tom Cruise movie, right? Like, let's go for it. That guy's going to sleep fine at night. Like, he's banking his back end 60 million no matter what.
I was gonna
Um,
say 60,000,000.
yeah, yeah.
But
We've all read the trade papers. We know what he gets. But I don't mean like a takedown of any artist or emerging gallery or anything like that. I think criticism can really be more of like a guiding post, right? Like um Roberta Smith, to me, when she used to be the chief critic of the New York Times. She's since retired.
Mhm.
But back in the day, her criticism was like biting. It was like, she would say what she liked and she would also say what she didn't like. And I just
Nice.
thought like that. And at some point, it took a direction with her and with the newspaper. And it's probably because of money. It's like, it's lucky anybody even reads a newspaper at all in any way. So, like, you know, I think everything is influenced by money. I think the old art world doesn't exist, and like no one is sitting around talking their leftist politics really and making protest art. I think, I generally think that's true. I think if artists get together and just hang out and have dinner, that might come in, but I don't think there's any. This doesn't feel like some everything. The world is just so insular now because of technology, because of COVID, because of, you know
Wow.
there's
Do you
not
think
that kind of. I've found more community among artists out in the middle of nowhere Massachusetts, in this like basically retirement community where I have my community center job. There's amazing like jazz musicians, published authors, and they're in their 70s, 80s, and this is and they're still, they're doing it. And it's like real artists, that exhibit, maybe not in the contemporary in the way that I know, but
Mhm.
so there's that. But that's also, it's an affluent community in Western Massachusetts, right? And everyone
Mm.
is older. So I think, a lot of times success as an artist comes much, much later, however we define success. And this can all be tied into politics too. Judith Bernstein, that artist I mentioned, is successful in the art world in a very small sort of niche way, but later in life became more successful because she kind of stuck to her guns. And but I don't know sales wise if it was. I think most artists aren't going to make a. There was, I forget who, it's a famous artist too, male artist, who made a Trump show, an anti-Trump show in like 2016, 2017. Um, and my thought on that was like, who the hell is buying these? Like, you're not buying them if you're pro-Trump. If you're anti-Trump, you're not going to live with the Trump painting.
Right.
And I don't think museums are like quick to pick up presidential portraits, period, unless it's the Smithsonian that commissions them, because of funders and because of, and probably most of the boards of museums are on the far right, I would guess. Like,
On the far right.
they're the billionaires that can write a check without blinking their eyes. That is not coming from social work. Like,
But
these are
billionaire
the
art lovers are on the left. Billionaire lovers are are what's it called?
not
What's
Elon
that word?
Musk,
No,
not
not Elon, but he's not
not
in
Donald
the art
Trump.
world.
He loves art. I mean,
No, but they're not in the
not
art world
Ivanka
either.
Trump. She loves art.
She loves art. But
Yeah.
I'm saying no, but they joined the left for the what's that word? Like they're
I guess I still don't know. I hear like, it's like Dennis Quaid, he's
yeah.
still getting cast and everything. He's like, I see him a lot now. Like, I don't know that, I don't know how many Republican John Voight gets cast. He's just in
Oh, come on.
Coppola's
There's two people in
Megalopolis.
Hollywood. I remember the word. It's virtue signaling.
Oh,
They're virtue signaling.
yeah,
You
all
join
the
when
time.
you can afford to be on, like, if I ever become a billionaire, maybe I'll join the left so I can virtue signal and look down upon everybody and buy art. And that's the whole shebang a doodle all
No,
day.
no, the right virtue signals as much as the left. Everyone has an Instagram and posts their do this or do that. Like, everyone wears their message t-shirts and don't do anything, basically. That's virtue signaling, right? Like, if you're actually showing me a video of you protesting, I don't really care, but like, that's not virtue signaling, right? That's getting up and doing something. Buying a t-shirt, no. But like, do what you want to do, that's sort of my thing. Unless it affects me or like people I care about. And listen, I think, sure, voting for Trump does, just like voting for Kamala does. Like,
Yeah.
a
All
vote.
right, so let me just kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about like the importance of that trope of the struggling artist, and to what extent do you think the artist as a victim is like
You
relevant,
really sound like a Republican now.
but it's important. The artist has
Well,
to be a victim, or is that
I
not
don't
true?
think the artist has to be a victim. I don't think it's a trope. I think most
It's
artists. No, it's not. Like, name another profession where you have to have a second profession.
yeah, oh man.
So it's not a trope, actually. Like, you are an artist, that's a full-time job, and most artists have a second full-time job, if not multiple, especially
Mhm.
like,
Oh, it's a
multiple.
calling.
Well, yeah, no one, if you get into art thinking you're going to be rich and famous, again, this isn't Hollywood. This is not the music industry. It's a very different, the most successful artists right now, most people, the majority of the world would not know who they are.
Do you know, have you ever seen the artist? I would love to have him on the show if you're down. Have you ever seen Alec Monopoly?
No, but just the name, I can imagine what the work is.
Yo, yo, yo. All right. So basically, here's an artist who one might argue that the work is one dimensional and maybe he's outside of the art world.
Is it street art?
It's kind of street arty.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
all like it's basically like Jeff Koons, kind of those like the way Jeff Koons did those the dolls, but
Yeah.
like the Monopoly Man or like
Okay.
the Scrooge McDuck. But
I
like,
mean, it sounds like another artist, Tom Otternes, who has sculptures in the 14th Street subway. I mean, I'd have to see this
oh,
Mr.
that guy, no,
Monopoly's
but
work.
even more gaudy and
Yeah.
more, but like, I like the work.
Well, I mean, gaudy Murakami, these sculptures of women with 3 tits with milk squeezing out of it. You know, like
Me like,
that was a vibe and probably still is. I'm sure that work is expensive.
uh-huh, uh-huh. And so here's this guy, he's just catering to a wealthy clientele.
Sure.
He's on Instagram driving, ripping around Dubai in Ferraris. I'm like, yo, maybe his message isn't as deep or uh meaningful, but here's a guy who's found commercial success
Yeah.
seemingly.
Yeah.
Um and like, is that the path for an artist to like just make a product that will sell, or like make a product to be remembered, or
Well, that's the difference. I mean, this Mr. Monopoly, like I would say, I can only tell you how I approach
you gotta
making.
check him out on the gram. Amazing.
What's his name?
Alec Monopoly.
Alec Monopoly. That is not my approach to making art, which is I want to talk about making product. I want to talk about like moving merch,
Yep.
in through my art. I'm looking at it now.
Don't throw up.
No, I mean, listen, I see why people would love this. Like, I get it. Like, um, it's no different than a lot of stuff that's in the contemporary art world.
Mm.
That I don't know. That's a lifestyle that could be a very real lifestyle that's in parts of the art world that I haven't. It looks like Miami Art Basel every year, like both the art and the vibe. Um, But I can tell you now at this stage in the game for me, 20 years in, has no appeal to me. Um, it had a limited appeal back in the day when I was doing it for the first time. But I never really gravitated. I, as an artist,
Right.
was looking for my people. Like we were all fucking nerds. I don't know for everybody, but it felt like we were like these outcasts, these misfits or some way
Yes.
that came together. That's what and not anymore. I don't feel I'm the opposite of that now.
Yeah,
Like,
now the left is bullying people like me.
but my politics have nothing to do. I'm certainly not bullying you.
No, you're not. You're so sweet and
But
open-minded.
But it also, like, I don't sit
Appreciate that.
around and talk politics with any of my artist friends at all. Like, I
Mm.
think no one is particularly thrilled with anything that's happening
Wow.
if you want the truth. I
So,
think you would be in that boat too. Like,
but
we've said
I
this.
do
Like,
believe that art is the one, like one of the most important, as they say, the pen is stronger than the sword.
yeah.
And so like, what are the objectives of the artists today, and like what can they be doing or should they be doing in order to like create more peace in the world or create their own movements?
Oh, come on. The peace will happen when the powers that be decide it will be. So, like, hopefully, at least we're not that naive that we think by, like, putting a daisy in the barrel of a gun is going to end any bullshit.
I do.
Um,
I am that night. I love that.
No, I mean, I kind of,
Square, baby.
you have this like mixed message where you're like, artists are terrible lefty monsters, but they have to do something to create world peace. Like, I don't think that's the responsibility of any one person or group. I would hope, but also like, listen, when this has happened, like we can reflect now, whatever, like we are the world. That's like a saccharine piece of shit. Like the intention was great. I hope it raised lots of money, but like, give peace a chance. Okay. Like that didn't really do dick. Like I'm not, that's action. But that makes me cringe a little bit. Like it's not inherent to like my purpose in life. I've said this to my friends on both sides of the October 7th war, Gaza. Like, don't come at me with anything. You don't know what I do in my private life. And if anyone would to ask, I've given money to Doctors Without Borders. That felt like the best thing I could do, I can do. These are doctors and nurses who are telling me that it's just like murder galore. They're not seeing anything other than dead bodies, right?
Oh.
So, I don't know. And yes, of course I
children.
I have my politics. I have them all the time. For my art, like I said, I've been making, this is not about me or my art, it doesn't have to be, but like I've been making these 2 shows for now like a year. And they're the first shows. Yes, it's like my opinions about stuff, but they're kind of devoid of me in some way. Where the first 3 were really these sort of identity shows, I think. And both of these shows that I've made now, one is inherently political and one is sort of like a cry for I think just more like collaboration in the art world, more awareness. Like, let's not forget about criticism, and let's not forget the role of the dealer is to really weed out a lot of shit. Like, and again, it's all subjective. And there's a market, there's this pressure of the market. And that's where, the collector comes back in and is so important. And I can circle back. And this is why there are no political shows, because every gallery will do any trash show they can right now if they think it will sell to any collector, regardless of politics, because the doors are closing and it's not getting any better. Look, it is not getting any better.
Right.
That's a cultural appropriation. I used to be Italian until I took a DNA test. No Italian.
Wait, your last name sounds pretty, part of the family.
Well, my father isn't my father, I found out.
Oh, whoa. That is wild.
Yeah.
Wait, how did you find that out?
So I did we're gonna have to do an ad for 23andMe now, because 23andMe, when you find out your dad isn't your real dad.
That is fucking juicy. You found that out as an adult?
Yeah, like 5 years ago or something, 4 years ago. And I took this DNA test just to be like, because my parents always said we were Italian and Native American. And I was like, I think I'm Jewish and Black. Like, I was like, please. Like,
oh, especially in the art world.
Yeah, because I really wanted to further my career.
Our next sponsor is O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly. Looking for parts that keep you running as smooth as your latest masterpiece? Swing by O'Reilly Auto Parts. From brake pads to spark plugs, we've got what you need to keep your ride as finely tuned as your creative vision. Stop by, sing along, and leave with parts that are always in tune with your drive. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Ow!
So I took this DNA test, and all of a sudden I had a half sister who's Vietnamese.
And shut the front door.
And I
Get
was
her
like,
on the show.
I was like, what? I was like, wait, my dad was way too young to go to Vietnam, and she was born in Vietnam, and then we ended up talking, and anyway, that's a whole other. That's my 4th novel. Is I want to go. Here's more. We can bring it back to art. I
love what you always do, by the way.
I want to go. So I have these 4 novels. I've written one. I'm working on the second one, but they're all sequels that have a character named RJ Supa. In the 4th novel, I want to go to Vietnam and trace my half-sister's steps and write about like a novel in real time, and just write about whatever I find. Like, her mother worked at a whorehouse. Her father was an American soldier. Like, just wherever I could go and find, just talk to the people and see what develops and write this. Like, to me, that's interesting. That's like a conceptual novel. It won't be a bestseller, but like, I haven't heard anything like that before. Like, I mean, it's based sort of on like Truman Capote did something similar with In Cold Blood, and Norman Mailer did something similar with another like novel where he sort of incorporated himself into it. But I'm missing that in art. Like, and I've talked to another friend about this idea of genius, another dealer, and she said the same thing as I did. She said, no one's doing anything new. Like you have to kind
I disagree with that. I just feel as if we just can't see it yet. But also,
yes, that's true. I guess no one is doing anything new that we are looking at, and in part, it comes back to politics and the market. And The art world is really, I say this all the time, it's very conservative because of money. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you see all these people protesting museum boards all the time. Why do you think that is? Because the museum boards are not made up of lefty people. They're
Mm.
not. That's why there are young lefty people outside protesting every major opening. So, Wawa, check your info, buddy. Uh, like
Yeah,
if you went through board members of most museums, you are going to find
backwards.
a lot of registered Republicans.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And yeah, many Democrats too, but
You really rang my bells on the last show, helping me to understand the importance of that sweet, sweet triumvirate of the
yeah.
dealer, the collector, and the artist being all reliant on each other to
Yeah.
propel this artist's brand. Um,
I'll say this about politics too, right? Like uh you're a right-leaning person or are now. I'm not even sure of your politics, quite frankly, but you're voting for Trump. We know that. But I'll
yeah,
say
exactly.
this,
I'll stir the
like
pot on the show for sure.
if your politics means you're much better at business than I am and can figure out how to do this podcast and make it successful, and
And
I'm all
voila.
for that. That's like a skill set I don't have. Like I've
Interesting.
had two galleries with, I think, mostly progressive people. Like they both sank because none of us were fucking good at business, right? So like if I have to sort of again get in bed with someone whose politics are different than mine to be successful, I have fantasies of having my novels published by major publishing houses that did it, Barnes and Noble and our Amazon. I will donate the proceeds of my first novel to Jeff Bezos himself if my statement is false, that he and I are vastly different in politics, and I still want my novel like front and center on his website, right? Like
Right, right.
if we want to exist in this, like, idealism doesn't really, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me anymore. Like it did when I was 15 and I didn't see the world. My politics have probably even gotten farther to the left, in fact, as I've gotten older, right?
Wow.
Because I haven't found anyone that represents me at all. Like, it wasn't Obama. It wasn't Papa Biden. It's not Kamala. Like, it's
Yeah.
not Donald Trump. Like, it's been Ralph Nader, this, like, octogenarian now who made us wear seatbelts, right? Like, so I just find that my art and my life just sort of reflect my interest in, I think, just me. And like, and that's why I'm saying, like, back to the politics thing, like, I don't care about your, again, if you do something that offends me, I'm going to deal with it directly, whether it's about your politics or not. But I just don't think there's like these cobbles of artists sitting around, like, deciding how to destroy the right in any way, shape, or form, or putting solutions forward of how to increase peace, or, I don't know, make the deficit go away, or, make the internet free for all people in rural communities, or make sure food is available to people in rural communities and poor people ever, like, I don't think artists are actively sitting around dealing with that. I think a lot of artists are concerned about their careers and the market and the pressures of being an artist.
But I think it's so important that we, as patrons of art and participators of art, um, expose ourselves to as many point of views as possible,
Yeah.
um, in order for us all to progress as best as possible. But
Well, and you may not find, again, I think you're not going to find, I could be wrong about this, but I just don't think you're going to walk into, maybe this show is political. There's this artist I love, Bunny Rogers. I think she's like fucking incredible. She's made 2 or 3 shows about Columbine, the shooting, the high school. The Whitney did a show with one of these, and it was, I mean, it was like a high school auditorium where someone sits down at a piano and plays a sad song, kind of, and there were like, looked like backstage, there were sculptures of ladders and chairs and no guns or anything. That maybe is political. I mean, to me, that's something that's talking about a political issue. She does a lot of work, I think, that deals with like abuse. That could be potentially political. I'm sure there were artists that were making work about the Gulf War. You know, it's also like there's so many issues now that are there's not a singular issue that everyone's focused. I mean, right now it's the election, of course, but um I say this like no one's going to sit, we're not going to get a collective audience of like 20 million people to sit down and watch the last episode of anything on network TV at the same Thursday night. You know, there's no Cosby Show or ER anymore. So just like that, I think the art world is incredibly fractured, for better or worse. I mean, this is part of the democratization of that is, but I don't think there's like a lot of right wing galleries walking around showing like right wing artists that I know of.
You know, it feels like there's less taste on the right. Like to me, like
What do you mean less like people on the right have less taste?
no, like I mean, what do I mean? It feels as if like I got to think about that. We'll talk about it on another
Well,
episode.
I have a story now that I'm thinking. I was in Houston with a collector of mine, this great guy, Andrew. He's since died. I'm doing a lot of this, blessing myself.
Before or after I lived there?
This would have been before. I think this is probably 2013, 2014. He was a really awesome guy, partner in a law firm down there, bought a lot from me, was new into collecting, got divorced, had a hot new wife that was his secretary, and loved her. And then was on the board of the museum there and would come to New York, come to the galleries, and we just developed a relationship. He was really great. He took me out for this night. It had to be 2016 because it was the Trump story. Took me out this night. I mean, I drank so much tequila. Like we got so drunk together, me, him, and his wife. He took me out to this like super nice restaurant in Houston, and then proceeded to tell me that he and his wife both voted for Trump. And I was like, okay, like, and she said, I will never vote for a woman. And I was just like, oh boy. And then she said, despite having several abortions. So that was super complicated for me at the time. It was business. I probably was more like heightened then than I would be now. But I think at the end of the day, I found it sort of like storytelling. I think there's a lot of rhetoric sometimes that like a Trump supporter is like a Nazi marching in the street. I think, no, those Nazis marching in the street
wants us.
Well, I think like some people are like, you know, Nazis marching in the street, calling for death to Jews or whatever they say. I don't know the slogans. But I think by and large, like
those are extreme outliers.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know who they are. I think the same thing. I think that if there's this idea that people on the left are gathering and having secret communities and, you know, plotting, it's unknown to me. This is not the 1960s. It's not even the fucking 1990s. Like, you know, I haven't, you know, I think the last time I protested was like the Pussy March or something, the Pussy Hat March, right? I mean, it was nice. We went to like a fun restaurant after. I got like a burger and a beer. It made me feel nice to be in community in that way. This wasn't an art world thing at all. I was just with like actually some old ladies who it was meaningful to them.
Can art be meaningful like without some sort of political message or
I'm
some
going to
sort
show you art that I have right here, and I can tell you why I have it and why it's meaningful, right? How? So this first thing, this is a book that this artist Cindy Hinant made. Cindy Hinant. I don't know her Instagram again because I'm not 12, but she has one. But this is at this point of publication. It's called Baby Hairs on Fleek. Kim Kardashian Selfish, text only edition. So this was every Kim Kardashian Instagram at the time, just with it's only the text of it. So all the images are removed. So I was doing a photo shoot. Wow. I took a selfie before I went out. Who knew it would get more attention than the actual shoot? Waterfall selfie. I lived at my mom's house for a year and a half. I would go in Kylie's room and do my makeup.
Oh my God.
I was in Santa Barbara horseback riding with Chloe. Now, I bought this. She actually performed this at my gallery. She read a bunch of these. I mean, this to me is thought provoking. It's fascinating. It's dealing with contemporary issues. Uh, it's, I don't know her political stance based on this. I think what it does, lots of people have actually dealt with Kim Kardashian in their artwork. I think what it does is it introduces Kim Kardashian in a different light, right? We think about it differently. That's what I hope art does by and large. I mean, I can show you, I think everything kind of like this is this artist, Aaron Kroc, Aaronkrach. He also has an Instagram that I don't know what it is. But he did a whole series of these sculptures where he took novels and then soaked them in the liquor or alcohol or beer that the author died of, because these were all alcoholic. So this is The Stories of John Cheever, which is like a genius novel soaked in vodka. So I've had this now for probably 10 years. Like you can see the vodka's gone down.
Dog,
The whole
that
cover.
is so dope.
Now I bought this for $150.
Oh
Right?
my
So
God.
that book I bought was like $40. Like I put it on a nice display here. It's an object. It's an artwork, right? Like,
It's so powerful.
so I think that's why, like, those things I bought, like, again, I was interested at the time. I thought Kim Kardashian was trash. I hated her. Like, truly, I wanted to read that. I thought it was so
You
interesting
were
to.
jealous of her fame.
I was absolutely. I mean, that woman. I think like she's fucking cool as shit, man. She like has
She's a
built
genius of our
an
time.
empire doing exactly what she wants to be doing. You know, it's not what I want to be doing, but God bless, man. Because if I can get paid that much to do what I want to do, yes, that is the key, right?
You gotta sell your poontang just once or twice.
Hey, I'm not mad at that. You know, I have done full frontal in a performance, and I printed life-size nude things of me in my last show.
Dope.
They're still available if you want them.
Well, consider them purchased.
I'll trade those for the truck.
Done and dusted.
And as always, Artburn is proudly sponsored by Prilosec. Got that creative burn, but not into the heartburn? Let Prilosec handle the fire so you can keep your focus on what really matters, making art that sizzles. Keep that passion going strong without the stomach drama. Artburn and Prilosec, fueling the art and fighting the burn.
Oh, I'll show you. Here's another. This is something I made. So this was during the Walt Disney show that I did on Governor's Island. So there are articles in the New York Times that 4 articles that reference Walt Disney being imprisoned during World War I on Governor's Island. They were never, as far as I know, they weren't like corrected or anything like that. So blah, blah, blah. I made this whole show about him potentially being imprisoned on Governor's Island during World War I, and I created a bunch of fake artifacts to make them look. So I read his biography. I pulled out a bunch of stuff, and so this was one thing. So I made this like sculpture. Wait, so there are actual drawings that he did of this rat. He was very pro-America, anti-German, and he made all the Germans these rats in drawings. So what I did is I just, made a fake sculpture and I tea stained it. I made, I ripped it up and everything so that it looked like it was 100 years old. And then I put it in this box that I lined with linen, and I made like really beautiful like museum labels for everything. And then I did tours of this show like it was real. And then right at the end, I would tell everybody that the whole thing was made up, that he was never in prison, that he was too young, that he actually did go to France with the Red Cross on a
I like the
ambulance
rat
mission.
and mouse, Mickey Mouse.
Yeah,
kind
so
of.
that was my whole thing, that the Mickey Mouse was born from this rat, and I lied the whole way through. And then I told people the truth at the end, and people got pissed, like every time.
That's the art, man, and that is what fucking gives me the schwing, schwang, schwang.
Well, yeah, I think it's just, and again, like, it's like you have this fixed vision of one thing, right? The entire time I made that show, though, everyone was like, but wasn't he an anti-Semite? Wasn't he an anti-Semite about Disney? And I said, probably has nothing to do with this show, though. So, like,
Wow.
and really, that was, I heard that more and more. And in fact, he was an anti-Semite. I read his biography for research, but like,
Wow.
that's not what my show is about. So
Irrelevant
much has been done. My Michael Jackson show, for instance, my show was called Or Best Offer, a capitalist fantasia. And it was about his relationship to corporate America using only officially licensed Michael Jackson merchandise.
Yo.
And people came down, they said, he's a musical genius or he's a pedophile. I said, correct. That's not what my show's about.
Wow.
Like, you know, those things have been covered much better than I ever could or have any interest. There are many other ways to look at this person.
It reminds me of like the whole color palette of an artist. Like it's so far beyond black and white, and there's an infinity between the two.
Well, I think you hope that an artist, I mean, this is my hope. I won't mind looking at a figurative painting if there's a new perspective inside of that figurative painting. You're muted.
Good. I was just calling for the baby to come out for the end of the show.
Oh, yeah, great. Bring a baby.
RJ, meet my cousin Paul and our little nephew, his son Vito.
Oh, wow. Hey, Vito. Hey, Paul. Congrats. I'm doing
Thank
great.
you.
Wow. How old is he?
Little angel. 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Wow. It's
This
cool.
is what I came to see.
Is he your first kid?
Little dude, yeah.
Wow. Vito.
Yeah. Pretty fun.
You got to
I'm
grow
really
some
excited.
grapes so he can make wine.
Great to meet
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, you too. Bye, Vito. So let me ask you, that's your cousin and his wife?
Yeah.
Do they buy art?
Oh yeah. They love it. They
They
love
do?
it. They love it. And Paul just bought. I put him up on two artists that I loved on Instagram, and he's got more moolah than me. And he just went and he hit them up, and friggin' bought the works. I was so stoked that, like, you know,
That's cool.
he's listening to my BS.
Well, whatever,
advice.
no matter what it is, it's your passion, right? If it's your,
It is.
like, maybe it's all BS, but your passion is real, you know?
That's for sure.
And
That's
I
for
think that comes through a lot. And I think at the end of the day, your politics are probably bananas, mine are bananas, whatever. But at the end of the day, I think we are here to
Yeah.
grow artists, collectors, and galleries, right?
Yeah, the whole pie needs to get bigger, and that is what we want to have a mouthpiece for.
It needs to be better. I don't know if it needs to be bigger, but it needs
Bigger.
to. It probably needs to be. There's whatever that maybe there's a whole other show about like art fairs and these organizations. Like, you know, I have this fantasy like these organizations that charge members fees. There's like, you know, you can buy healthcare through them, so artists have healthcare that's affordable,
That's
right?
awesome.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, so. As a lot of time living in New York, if I didn't have health insurance half the time, and I made too much to qualify for Medicaid, right? So like, anyway, there's a lot of stuff that I think could bring artists together that would be more of a collective that doesn't necessarily like a community more. So it would, that's what but it might be a pipe dream though.
What happened to the cafes of, like, you know, in Paris, you know, sipping absinthe and
That's
like,
when you could like live on like $1 a day or something. You know, it is so expensive, this world, to just exist. Even if you
so how
are.
about that could happen in Texas, that could happen in Florida or something, or maybe, and how about up in Massachusetts where you are? Like, I don't know. I know it's pretty, maybe too expensive to do that, but I feel like it's cheaper than Bushwick.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely, this is like, you know, the chicken or the egg kind of argument, though, or I don't know if that's a great metaphor or not, but like, you know, if you're that far out of New York or LA and you're not artists with connections already, and you want to be in the contemporary art world.
Yeah, you gotta be. It's not who you know, it's who you blow. And you gotta be fucking in the mix of doodle dandy.
I think it's just showing up and getting kind of, listen, there have been spots, I've been privy to them, but like in New York, like bars and stuff where like art communities sort of hung out. The spot Beverly's that just reopened. I mean, that all the time. Like, I've met people there. I did shows with people because I met them there. I like met dealers and did deals and collectors, and we would have after parties there. A lot of that stopped because of COVID, because you weren't serving booze when the galleries did reopen. You still had to wear masks, you know, and then
Oh my God, artists
also,
love the mask.
some art, when I'm in New York and people are on the street wearing masks, I was like, what's going on? We're on the street. Like, I mean, I see if you want to wear it on the sub. Like, it actually worked. Like, you know,
The mask is the left's MAGA hat. That's the whole shebang.
I don't know.
Trust me, baby.
I don't wear either.
Oh, me neither.
I raw dog it all the
Oh,
way.
Lordy. Fuck yeah. Raw dog life.
Yeah. How long are you in California for?
I'm in Cali till Monday. So I'm really soaking up the vibes.
Yeah,
Big time.
great. Enjoy it. Going to the beach?
Maybe not. I don't know. The beach, no, but I want to go to, I'm going to try to do some studio visits. Definitely hit the Broad Museum. I freaking love that one.
Oh yeah. That's like the
and I'm
greatest
really-
hits of contemporary art.
Totally. And I'm really
Yeah.
inspired by that guy, Eli Broad. What's interesting, I read his biography because he's a great entrepreneur. He created
Yeah, I don't know anything about him really.
great entrepreneur. He started KB Homes, which was like a fucking huge spec house builder. But in his biography, you'll like this one. His last name is Broad.
Yeah.
And he decided when he was in high school or something around, as a young man, he said, hey, my name is going to be pronounced Broad because I'm not a freaking broad. And so he changed the pronunciation of his last name.
Oh, but it was Broad?
Yeah, but he changed it,
Wow.
when he was a kid. Hey, it's pronounced Broad.
Wait, so he made his fortune on these like model homes?
Yeah, spec houses. And something else. He created $2 billion businesses.
And does he still, he's old though, yeah?
He croaked.
Oh, he's dead.
Yeah.
When did he die?
A couple years ago.
Okay.
But, wilding, next level dude.
I mean, there are so few collectors like that alive anymore. Like,
I certainly aspire. I look to him as an inspiration.
but also it's hard to get someone like that attention to, truthfully, like a collector at that level. Like these small emerging galleries are not getting his attention. And you can tell by all the work he collects, right? It's all like blue chip. So that's
Right.
the other.
No, but he bought the Coons. He talks about this in the biography. He bought the Coons balloon rabbit thing. The mirrored rabbit.
Yeah.
For like $500,000, like from a small gallery. He was like, yo, who's this Jeff Koons guy like coming out in like 89? And he copped it. And then he flipped it and wishes that he never flipped it. But he tells that story in the book. I'm paraphrasing and I'm not getting the numbers right, but like he was mad early and he was buying early from living people. And then it just turned out that like the people, and he also only bought big stuff. I loved that too.
Yeah. Was it all in storage before the museum? Like, where was it?
Yeah, he's storing it. And his cribs.
Yeah, right.
It's like,
but I mean, those like balloon animals are huge.
No, there was one little one.
Oh, the rabbit, the chrome rabbit.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's what it was. And he bought it small before Koons was doing big stuff.
Yeah.
Turn up the heat.